Their Tactics, a podcast about entrepreneurs and the communities that shape them. I'm your host, Julia Lucidi, and today we will be tuning in to a panel recorded live at the Fort Lauderdale Tech Meetup. On this episode, we'll be talking about consumer insights and how to build and drive a business that serves what consumers need and really want. We were able to bring three very valuable perspectives, one of an infrastructure provider, another of a startup, and another of a large corporation, to understand how they are working through consumer analytics and providing value to their end consumers. On this panel, I had the opportunity to interview Kevin Cochrane, Chief Marketing Officer at Vultr, Patricia Osorio, co-founder at Birdie, and Ari Lehavi, Head of Predictive Analytics at Moody's Analytics. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe on any platform in which you're listening to us now. And if you're ever in town for the Fort Lauderdale Tech Meetup, definitely swing by and be a part of our community. We meet once a month, and you can register and sign up for our events by visiting fortlauderdale.techmeetup.com.
By doing a brief introduction from each one of our panel speakers. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. We'll start with Patricia.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Patricia Osorio, co-founder of Birdie.ai. And Birdie is a feedback analytics company. And what that means pretty much is that we're aiming to make customer centricity more than a buzzword. We want companies to really use customer feedback. So we want to make customer feedback the main source of prioritization for companies. And it all started because as a customer, I kept wondering, how come companies that I buy from don't understand what are my problems, don't see what is obvious in my interaction with the problem, with the product, and what are the problems that I'm having. It's so clear, it's here, and I'm giving feedback to them all the time. And pretty much talking to customers, talking to companies about that, I realized that they have a lot of user feedback sitting in their customer support platforms, city service that they're taking in public data, social media, reviews, etc. But they are not tapping into that because it's really hard to take thousands and thousands of feedback every day, processing that and understanding how much that's impacting user satisfaction, how much that's impacting user retention, and etc. And then we decided to start Birdie. It all started with that understanding that we needed to change how that worked. And here I am. Today, we raised almost $9 million in funding. We have almost $1 million ARR. We're serving companies all over, from scale-ups, unicorns, and enterprises. And yeah, happy to be here. Proud to have chosen Fort Lauderdale as a place to live. I live really close here, and I'm happy to be supporting this panel.
Thank you. We have an all Fort Lauderdale panel, which we'll talk about in a minute. But let's go ahead. Yes, let's give a round of applause for that, please. Next, Kevin, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Great. Hi, I'm Kevin Cochrane. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Vultr and very honored to be on this panel. So thank you so much, Julia. And I'm actually very excited about Birdie because I think I'm your target customer. Again, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Vultr. Vultr is the world's largest privately held cloud compute platform. We operate over 32 data centers around the world. We reach 90% of the world's population in between 2 and 40 milliseconds. We're an alternative to Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud Platform. And we specialize in GPUs and AI. So for entrepreneurs that are looking to build and scale new global businesses powered by AI, we offer the most cost-effective global cloud compute platform to enable you to reach your worldwide audiences. We are proudly based here in South Florida, currently hiring here in Fort Lauderdale. So if anyone is looking to join the next rocket ship, that's not Birdie, because first of all, we got to support Birdie. I would love to have a conversation with you.
Awesome. Thank you. Ari?
Hello. I think we're all potential customers of Birdie, because at the end of the day, everything that we do is about getting to people that interact with our products to find the right value and the right solution. So very, very interested in the topic in general. So I'm I'm the general manager for a division of Moody's, which is not the rating agency. There's two companies at Moody's. One is the rating agency. The other is the data analytics and software solutions. And so what I'm responsible for is a division that builds analytical models and machine learning and predictive insights into what the economy will do, what companies will do, and how they'll perform. And so the transition from doing machine learning to using natural language processing and now using more of the generative aspects of AI central to what we're doing. We're producing a ton of information, a ton of that's unstructured, that is kind of lends itself to the Gen AI kind of applications, and there's a enormous amount of work that we're doing to extract the value from that and deliver a better experience for our customers.
Super impressive group of professionals that we have here. It's really exciting. So I want to break down our conversation into three main chunks. So the first part being setting the stage, understanding what are we talking about, where are we in the timeline of customer analytics and AI. Then I want to go into some practical applications of how is that applied to business, to your reality today. And then thinking a little bit more about the future and what are we seeing in consumer analytics and AI moving forward towards the future. So starting with setting the stage, I'll direct perhaps the question first to Ari. What is consumer analytics and what value does it bring to business?
Start with the easiest question. Hi. The way I think about it is it's an understanding of how customers react to your solutions, interact with your solutions, and how to deliver value to them based on what they care most about and what would help them solve their needs most effectively. I am really hoping that Patricia agrees with that, but I will let her. And the way I kind of think about it, there's traditionally the way that we would look at it would be around data mining and clustering and trying to find audiences that match different segments. And that's still the case. There's still a lot of analysis that you do based on customer segments and the way that you can actually group them into different natural kind of audiences that could be targeted for different value propositions or different messaging and different experience that they might have. What Gen AI now introduces is the ability to hyper-personalize that experience, to actually understand the customer needs by just sometimes asking them and understanding what they're looking for and delivering a better experience based on that. And that kind of almost like shifting from a predictive kind of story to a more personal interaction with a customer, that we're not necessarily now mining information. We're interacting with you and understanding what you're trying to achieve and getting you a better experience. So that's kind of how I look at it. But there's two experts, I should say, in this area that will likely have a much or different perspective on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think Ari's got it right. We have been talking about elevating the customer experience and delivering truly contextual, personalized experiences in the digital marketing world for literally nearly 2 decades. And unfortunately, the promise of delivering a one-to-one experience has never truly materialized. To Ari's point, we've always taken an inside-out approach by collecting a lot of data from third-party and first-party sources, and then seeking to segment our customers and then identify specific targeted messages and targeted experiences that we are pushing onto them. Very inside out. What do we want to push to a specific group of customers. At no point in time did we ever seek to truly understand every individual and ask the simple question, like the badges that you have when we show up, how can I help? And now, to Ari's point, what we're now able to do with generative AI is we're now able to ask simple questions of each individual, and now we can start tailoring a response that's unique to them based on them actually telling us what we want. So instead of me trying to predict who you are and then put you in a segment and identify you by a set of predetermined characteristics that I assign to that segment and then push a generic message to you, now I could just start interacting with you, asking you questions, and learn exactly how to tailor a response. You know, I have an audience of one. One of my favorite movies of all time, it's an odd movie, I agree, so you can talk about me later, is 6 Degrees of Segmentation. And there's a wonderful scene when Stockard Channing just stood up and just said, you know, I am not an anecdote. Well, I am not a segment. I am an individual. And now what we're able to do for the very first time is by harnessing the power of generative AI, we're now able to truly interact as a brand with each person as a unique individual. So if you want to talk a little bit more later about Stockard Channing and 6 Degrees of Separation, I would love to do that.
No, the only thing I like to add to that is that, like, now what we can do with customer analytics that probably we couldn't before is look at each customer not only from a photography perspective, so right at this moment, the interaction that we're having, but also looking at their whole journey, right? Because this customer is talking to me right now, but there is a lot of interactions that they did in the past that probably are driving them to do this interaction right now, or that are giving me clues about who they are and what do they want and why they came to have this interaction right now. So I think customer analytics is also about that, is about bringing the past and what are the interactions that they are having to predict the future or to interact with them in real time, but making sure that we are not asking the same questions again, that we're looking at what they did in the past, what they shared with us in the past, to give them better experiences, better insights. And I like what you mentioned, that we always try to sell. We are not as worried about retaining, right? After selling, how can I keep them engaged? How can I keep them satisfied? And I think customer analytics is about that too. It's not about bringing new customers only, but also about keeping the ones that you have and upselling to them.
I think it's interesting to think about this conversation and reflect on the fact that what we're describing is actually not something that people are accustomed to doing. So even if you think about ChatGPT, you're asking questions and you're getting your response. The notion that an application starts asking you questions is an experience that I think we need to learn how to get people comfortable with. Like, and there's a lot of thinking, I think, that needs to be done as to how do you when are you asking too much? When are you pushing them in a way that they're not comfortable? How do you get to that information without seeming intrusive? I don't know. There's a lot. I think it's a rich field of there's a lot of work to be done in this area.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on that because I think to some extent, people are concerned about AI mimicking a human, and people still want to interact with the human. And I think we have suffered two abuses. Abuse number one is in the digital marketing world. We collected a lot of data in order to bombard you with spam. And so people are naturally reticent to give more information because they don't understand what the value to them is. They see the risk that you're going to get spam, but they don't see the actual value for actually getting meaningful value. Then the second abuse we suffered is we had all these chatbots, which were call deflections to the call center. So I couldn't get an agent on the phone. I had to interact with this chatbot, and the chatbot was terrible. I always wanted to speak to an agent. And so I think to Ari's point, we have to get people comfortable, and we have to rethink the model, which is enabling AI to ask the meaningful, relevant questions to really understand what the customer needs in the moment so we can tailor a response. And then, of course, take that information and enable that information to go back to a real human being to deliver insights into the problems customers are having, so that going forward with a platform like Birdie, you can take those insights and you can improve your product experience or improve your customer experience. But it's going to take a big change, because right now, like, I don't like interacting with the chatbot right now.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to do is get to an agent. But if we do it properly, it's actually the right way to do it, because every one of us could have our own personal concierge in the future. Every one of us could be the VIP customer in the future. But we have to get the model right and, overcome the abuses that we've done in the past to our consumers.
So my next question for you guys is, as far as particular businesses that are online and consumer facing, where do you see the biggest opportunities for consumer analytics? Pat, feel free. Yes.
Yeah. So, we have a couple of, again, and tapping into that you mentioned, I actually believe that people don't want to talk to neither an agent nor a chatbot. They want to have a seamless experience with the product, especially if you're talking about like an app, a software, which is most of what we do, right? Today we're in the phone and we're doing everything in the phone. So my belief is that actually what the companies need to deliver is an experience where the job that I need to be done is done by myself, self-service, without needing to ask for help, without needing to ask for anybody. And then if I want to ask for help, then I can go to the chatbot, then I can go to somebody. So the concierge should be an option more than I need to get to them because I need their help. And then I have an example, and I'm from Brazil. You guys probably can tell based on my accent at this point, but there's a very good example in Brazil. If you guys don't know, you should take a look into. It's called Nubank, like new, but with NU. They are valued at more than PayPal today. The company has about less than 10 years old. It's a new bank that has almost 100% of their clients are self-service, more than 100 million customers. The cost to serve a customer is $1, which is probably one of the lowest ever. And they have an NPS of more than 90. So very happy people, very low cost to serve, seamless experience. And they do all of that by understanding what people are calling them for or people are going to the chat for and delivering that in the product. So people don't need to go to the chat anymore to ask for something. So I think that's a great example of, and a very clear example, and I have others, but of how you can use customer feedback to understand and deliver what they are searching for right at their tip of their hands without them needing to get and ask for help.
And I actually agree with that too. This is such an exciting conversation because we're all trained as product marketers to identify our personas and the jobs to be done. And it's usually like this big exercise. You sit in a room for 2 weeks and you brainstorm and then you go through and try to simplify it. And then you come up with all the jobs to be done. And then it's like this fixed point in time framework and everyone builds their product against it and you never look at it again. And to your point, with a platform like Birdie, you can constantly real time be assessing, like, what is it that people are trying to accomplish? Where are the friction points? What is it? What is the job to be done? And are they able to do it quickly and easily? And I think for anyone that's like a product marketer or product designer and has a, believes in the jobs to be done framework, I think AI providing the insights to keep that a living, breathing, continuously evolving framework, I think is really, really key.
Julia, I know you didn't want us to agree on everything, but
That's right. Let's some disagree. Bring the tension, Ari. Could count on you.
I'll avoid saying I agree or disagree. It's just more like I am a big believer still of the concept of a job to be done, except the way that I think about it is we're at a point where we can actually understand, at least from an enterprise perspective, what is it that you're trying, we could ask or understand or what they're trying to achieve, what outcome they're trying to get to. And this way, once we understand that, we can understand the context in which they're asking questions or what they're looking for. And we can say, now that we understand what you're trying to get at, there's some additional things that would help you. And I think that actually creates more value, and without being cynical, it also, allows for cross-selling. And to me, your question is like, what is the opportunity? To me, the opportunity is to develop this very intimate relationship with your audience, with your and that relationship as it gets built over time becomes an incredible moat, so that when somebody else comes in and hasn't spent a year understanding the type, what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to, how you like to work, what you like to do, they're gonna have to rebuild the whole thing. It's like, if I had to explain to Instagram all the stuff that I like to see, I wouldn't get all the lovely recommendations they get.
I'd love to hear from each one of you. How has your company leveraged AI to be solving problems for your consumers at a more efficient way?
Pat? Okay, I'll start again. So that's the core of our business, right? So we have multiple examples, but pretty much the way that we use AI. So we use AI when we bring the data in from multiple platforms to treat each data. So if it's the support ticket, we need to understand who's the agent, who's the customer, what each one of them are saying, what are the problems that this agent is bringing. We need to generate a summary. So we're using AI to bring that data in. We're also using AI to look at all the feedback that's coming. It's more NLP, actually, so natural language processing, to understand what are the problems that are making people call, what are the friction points that are bringing them. We do that to 100% of the conversations. And just to give an example, we have customers that have more than 500,000 calls a month, almost 1 million calls a month for some of them. So we literally go through all of that using NLP to understand what are the main things that they are bringing and correlate that with segmentation to understand how much it's affecting different users.
Can you help define for us what is natural language processing?
Yeah, okay, so I'm not a technical person, so the way that I'll explain probably will make some people feel very, very bad and sad about it. So if you guys can compliment or add something like that. But natural language processing is trying to mock and kind of like understand language patterns, contexts, to mimic how a person would say and translate that into a way that is, that is understandable and can be grouped together.
So essentially, ChatGPT is natural language processing.
Yeah, they use a lot of natural language processing.
I think that's like an example that everybody who is not technical could be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Technically, ChatGPT is more of the ability to take language and generate. So it's more natural language generation.
Sure.
It is a much higher level of insight. So natural language processing is far more about taking in language and information and kind of creating, more simple mechanisms to classify it in different groupings and recognize and match terms and whatnot. And natural language understanding takes you into a little bit of I understand much more about the context of this and takes you to a bit of a higher level. Generation is like, I understand, and now I can actually generate more content, new content. That's kind of so I don't think it's the right framing to say that it's ChatGPT. It's a much higher level of application of it.
I'm glad my co-founder is not here to see the way I explain, and I'm glad that you are here to put it in a much better way.
I think Kevin could take that to the nth level now, but
please feel free to.
No, I was just say, I mean, we here at Vultr, we provide the compute fabric to actually run your AI models. And what we do in terms of our application of AI is we use AI to identify patterns where customers are deploying and scaling their application workloads across our data centers. And so we use a lot of AI for operational efficiency to ensure that we constantly have the power and the availability of compute and storage and networking infrastructure so that you can scale your applications seamlessly. So that's really where we use AI. It's much more kind of in the operational efficiency side. Where we see opportunities to leverage AI is why I have to have a conversation with Patricia here, is because for understanding patterns of utilization on our infrastructure and mining our 500,000 support tickets every single month, which is approximately the volume we get, there's a tremendous amount of data that we could be leveraging to improve our own product experience as well. And this is the exciting part about AI. There's no end to which you can reimagine nearly every aspect of your business, both the product experience as well as every single operational processes that you're doing internally for building the product or scaling the product, or operational processes for supporting your customers or going to market. So this is kind of where the exciting opportunity is, because honestly, every single business is going to need to reinvent not only the product experience, not only the customer experience, but every internal process as well.
Ari, I know that you guys are working on a lot of things at Moody's using AI and developing some interesting solutions. Would you like to share a little bit more about that with us?
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, to Karen's point, I mean, there's at Moody's, we're taking a look at everything the way that you're describing. I think there's an aspect of it that's about the customer interaction. There's all sorts of pain points in the way that we're internally doing things. So we're examining every pain point, every inefficiency, or every way that we can improve efficiency, every way that we, from customer service, from how we process information, how we build software, how we build everything. We're kind of taking a fresh look. There's a lot of interesting applications. There's the common kind of ways of using Gen AI, using that ChatGPT application to kind of provide a natural language way of interacting with content. Moody's is a content-rich business where much of the value that we provide to our clients is by giving them access to unique data that is not available everywhere, unique information, and making it easy for them to interpret it. Where we're starting to push the envelope is to actually start using all that information to effectively automate portions of workflows that our clients go through, and think about those workflows from kind of an AI native way. And this is kind of where you start getting into the use of agents. And I don't know how many people are familiar with kind of agent systems and how agents are used. When you start looking at agents, you're basically starting to give autonomy to the AI. You're starting to move away from thinking of it as a chat interface, but actually as part of the engine, part of the operating system of a company. And that really implies that you have an outcome in mind and there's a workflow associated with it, but there's pieces of it that humans are involved in terms of making judgment as to what to do with certain steps in the workflow and how to move them from one phase to the next. Increasingly, because we are using the judgment, the reasoning capabilities is this full form of reasoning of AI to make those interim decisions. And that's I think a very important kind of next step in the evolution of the technology.
Can you share an example of a time where consumer insights significantly impacted product development, a marketing strategy, or a crisis aversion? It can be something that happened within your company or working with a client where those consumer insights really made an impact for the strategy and the direction of the company.
I have a couple of examples. So we have, just to give a few, we have a customer, it's a SaaS platform that it's an ERP system pretty much. And they were used to looking at customer problems that were coming, but they didn't correlate the feedback with the data from these customers, how much they were paying, if they were increasing ticket, if they were churning, etc. And then this specific customer using Birdie was able to discover that the top complaints among churning customers were completely different from the top complaints among active customers. And they were also able to see that the churning customers, when they started complaining about that, like it took them 3 to 4 months to churn. So these specific problems, once they happened, could raise a flag that, oh, soon these customers will churn if I don't take any action. They were able to use Birdie looking at a lot of tickets, a lot of like NPS responses, public data, etc., to get to these insights, prioritize the 2 specific features that were associated with those issues, launched those new features, and then had a reduction of more than 20% in the number of churns from customers with the same profile, the same segmentation. That's one example. We have also customers who are able to reduce contact rate. So contact rate is the percentage of calls over the total number of active customers that a company has. And they were able to reduce contact rate by half just by focusing on the major problems that customers were calling about or complaining about. And with that, they also were able actually to increase app reviews performance, because naturally, if I have my problems fixed, if I don't need to call, I have a better experience. I'll give a better score to the app, a better rating to the app. So these are just 2 examples that we have. We have a couple of others that we could share, but I would love to hear you first, and then.
Yeah, on the Vultr side, let me take a step back. So I have this firm belief that everything in software is about fixing broken workflows and simplifying the steps in that workflow and automating those steps as much as possible to help the customer quickly and easily get something done. And so in the Vultr case, what we started doing is understanding how our customers were building and deploying new AI services. What was the infrastructure they were standing up? How are they going about the process of standing up? How are they going about the process of actually provisioning the actual GPUs on our platform? How are they standing up all of the ancillary services from Kafka to, a vector database and so on and so forth? And then when you mapped out all of the steps, we're providing all of those services. You can stand up a vector database, you can stand up Kafka, you can stand up the GPU. But when you look at all of the steps they have to go to click through and stand up all of those services and wire them together, what you think about is, well, that's a broken workflow. You're requiring the customer to do too many steps, to do too much work, and you're having to provide documentation that they have to read and follow in order to succeed. So then what we did was we simply automated that and made turnkey services. So that's our new serverless platform. So when you get up and running with our serverless platform, you just have one API you call, and instantly you don't have to worry about what GPUs you're provisioning and what data centers anywhere in the world. We figure out all that for you. So we eliminate all of the steps in the workflow. And I think this gets to agents, because at the end of the day, the customer workflows and the requirements and the steps of those workflow will continually change as they're looking to do new things. And this is where an agent can come in, especially if you give the agent agency, not to make a play on words, and enable them to be autonomous to continually try to automate all of the things that the customer is trying to do. So as opposed to waiting for the next set of services that we can automate, what we would like to do here at Vultr is find a way to make our own system, self-learning in terms of how it can automate the provisioning of resources worldwide. It's kind of like in the hardware world, you have built-in resiliency where you have auto correction and error correction, and it's just the system just autonomously is constantly self-correcting at a hardware level. That's how CPUs and GPUs work. They're constantly self-correcting. You kind of want that for your application and your customer experience as well.
In our case, I'll give you an example that hopefully will resonate. It kind of a simple use case that has a huge impact. So just about all of our customers are managing some type of a portfolio. Is it a portfolio of suppliers, portfolio of loans, portfolio of investments? And there's there's a whole, some of those exposures, some of those companies are doing business with, they're very important to the business. And if something happens, they need to know. And we process 1 million pieces of news a day, and we can use AI to read all of those and figure out which one has an impact on any company that you're exposed to, whether you're doing business with, and let you know very quickly, that you should pay attention to this because this news has a direct or an indirect impact on this company, and may not be something that's good for you. You should be aware of it. Do something about it. So I guess you can call it a broken workflow, because otherwise, like, you'd have to employ all these people to read the news and figure out, right? So
Exactly. I mean, a good example of that, I'm just going to riff off to make sure I understand. So say, for example, I have a lot of embedded components from a manufacturer in China that has to come over on kind of a cargo ship. Well, if there's a hurricane in Florida, well, that might affect the reinsurance market. And then if the reinsurance market is affected, prices might go up on freight forwarders, and prices might go up in turn on cargo ships, which might actually affect the cost of my imported goods. And so suddenly my widget, there's a storm in Florida, I might not know it, but I might have to actually look at what I'm doing in terms of price and cost structure and maybe sourcing of my supplies.
Yeah. How can you balance qualitative insights, so say customer interviews, especially for companies that are startups and still growing in the market, and are still in that process of understanding how to solve a true need in the market? How do you balance those qualitative insights with quantitative data to make strategic decisions on growing your business?
I'll jump in. I mean, I actually think I truly believe in the concept of data blindness. And, at the end of the day...
What is data blindness?
Data blindness is you can get completely lost in, analysis paralysis. And you can ask 150 customers 150 questions, and you can get just mired and just lost, and just utterly can't see the forest for the trees. So I think you always have to temper deep quantitative analysis with good qualitative interviews, because despite everything that everyone says, like AI is going to replace human beings, like it's totally bogus. At the end of the day, AI is going to automate a lot of mundane, arduous, day-to-day tasks and broken workflows that we as humans can't necessarily do at scale in order to best serve our customers. You're not going to have a human being for every single customer reading through 1 million news sources to identify what risk there is to the business because of a hurricane in Florida that they should prepare for. It just doesn't work. Right? You have to have an agent do that, an autonomous AI do that. But, humans, we have one very unique thing, well, two, I would say, is we have intuition and creativity. So, the qualitative interviews are always critical because nothing compares to human intuition and creative problem solving, and AI can never, ever approximate that anytime in the future. Firm belief.
Yep.
Disagree.
Yeah, I think like if you are a smaller company, and we are talking about the good things here, but I have a lot of things to tell about our story in terms of what we did wrong. And when you're early stage, the most important thing to do is to be close to your customer. And what we help is exactly as you grow to continue close to your customer. But going back to the early stage, make sure that you're asking questions to the people that are your target market, right? Because otherwise it's just noise. At the end, if you're asking, as you said, the same questions to different people, we will get different answers and you'll get nowhere. So make sure that you know who is the segment you want to ask, who is the person you're targeting. Make sure that you find a similar profile of people. Otherwise, you're going to get different questions. You'll feel like, okay, I have so many opportunities. I have so much to do. Probably as founders, and I heard this multiple times from mentors, from investors, and we still keep making this mistake, is like, you need to focus. If you don't focus, that's a problem, right? And to focus, you need to be sure you're talking to the right person, to the right customer, to the right segment, the ICP, if ideal customer profile, the right persona, etc. And then the qualitative aspect tells you the why, right? But you need to know the who. So it's pretty much what, if you have like volume, you know what they're doing with product analytics, with their behavior. They're giving you indications of what is happening. You need to know who it is, because otherwise two different people have two different experience. If you try to look at them without knowing who they are, you will get nowhere. And then the feedback, the qualitative, helps you with the why. What is driving them? What is making them do that? What are they looking to do? So that's where the qualitative enters, and that's where it's very important. And yeah, I agree with you that like intuition, creativity at the end, if you're a founder, you also need to follow your intuition, right? If you look at NVIDIA, probably NVIDIA, and if you look at their valuation, like a lot of people probably saw that, it just started growing recently, but they are investing in GPUs for how long? How long have they been believing in this? So I think that's a little bit of intuition, a little bit of foreseeing, and believing a lot in something. And I think we all founders have that belief, something that you say, that's what I'm going after. So I know I didn't answer the question.
No, I thought it was great. But I kind of got hooked on you mentioning also that there were some big mistakes that you guys went through in the beginning. Could you shed some light on what some of those mistakes were, in hopes to help other founders who are building not make the same mistake?
One of the mistakes, I think, which was maybe a little bit of intuition, maybe a little bit of like, I don't know, being too focused on one thing. We wanted to use AI no matter what when we started. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. We need to use AI. I don't even know why, but we need to use AI. And I think that's a mistake, right? For a while, we try to be, and we try to say and focus on, we are an AI platform. And who cares? Like, AI is here to help, again, do a job, execute something. So if I don't know why I am using AI for, if I'm just trying to use AI because it's hype, because everybody's using, because whatever, it doesn't make any sense. And I think it took us a while to look at that and try to see what was the workflow, what is the part of the workflow of customer experience that we needed to fit into to really solve a problem. The other thing was trying to solve, because as an entrepreneur, you see opportunities everywhere, right? So we were speaking to different people. That was another mistake. Let's talk to retailers. Let's talk to B2B companies, to B2C companies, to consumer electronics, banks. And then each one of them, different areas, different companies, wanted different things. We were like, oh my God, so many things to do. Let's do all of them. And then, of course, you can't do everything. So just 2 examples to share. I have others that we can discuss later too, but
I think you point out like a brilliant thing that I think every founder does face, which is it's so easy to follow the herd. And when you're seeking to get funding, when you're seeking to get that first customer, when you're seeking validation for your product concept, everyone throws out tennis balls like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And all those tennis balls is everything that everyone else is doing. But if you have the intuition of what's the broken workflow, what's the pain point for the specific person that you talk to, that you understand, and you've walked in their shoes, dare to be different. And when someone throws a tennis ball, whack it away and say, that's not what I do. If someone's saying, oh, you don't have AI in it, maybe you don't need it right now. I'm not saying you do or don't, but I'm saying just don't be afraid to say, I know my customer. I've spoken to the people I need to use my platform. I know what their day is. I know what the broken workflow is. And I know I have a unique insight on how to solve it. And don't pay attention to the tennis balls. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's great. I have a question for Ari now.
I also can't play tennis, so I don't pay attention to tennis balls anyway.
So now looking a little bit more towards the future. A lot of folks are still pretty skeptical about AI, but also in the same way that folks were skeptical when the internet came out and using the internet or the cloud and the security of using the cloud. What are some misconceptions that you can help clarify so that people feel more confident in building a future that has AI integrated in the same way that we have the internet integrated into our lives today in the cloud? What are those misconceptions that we really need to break through in regards to AI?
Sorry, my alarm went off for some reason. I think I set my alarm this morning at this time, and there's a reason why I didn't get up. Yeah, 7:45 was supposed to be 7:45 a.m. Turning a little red. So I totally got distracted. So what are misconceptions?
Yeah, folks have been skeptical of other large disruptive innovations, right? Like the internet and using the cloud. And now we have AI, and a lot of people are still mistrusting or unsure. What are some misconceptions about AI that folks need to break through to step in more confidently and, incorporate AI into their business and really start building out the future?
Well, there's a lot of people that might be inherently cynical, and the healthy cynicism is never a bad thing, but that doesn't preclude the idea that you should test it and explore it, and then there's people that are resistant, and resistance, I think, sometimes comes from lack of understanding and really diving into it. It has sometimes it comes from fear. Sometimes like fear of change, fear of what does it mean from your career, and I think that's also misplaced in the sense that I think there's a way for everyone to benefit from it. I don't know that it's strictly, I look at it strictly through the lens of intuition and creativity. I look at it just also, there's so much more that you can do if some of the grunt work is automated, and so you can actually scale yourself and all of that. And so to me, the way that a lot of the misconception is just not immersing yourself enough. We're not trying it enough, not exploring it enough. We're not being open-minded enough. And once you do that, you probably will develop some kind of a level of conviction around whether or not it's here to stay. It's very difficult to convince people until they actually try it and try to learn it, try to understand it. And my biggest recommendation to people is to just do it. Just dive in. Just like see how you can automate stuff. If you're working, try to automate yourself, because there's so much more that you can do if you automate a big chunk of what you do. Anyways, that I'm rambling, but
did you face a lot of opposition in Moody's? However, I mean, you're 100-year-old company, you got the largest data set in the world. Like, what were some of the misconceptions that you had to overcome when you're like, let's explore this, let's do this? I mean, obviously you're transforming the whole of Moody's analytics now. Like, that must have been hard.
I think human nature, every company is going to have, or anyone trying to bring change is going to run up against the natural kind of pushback that you get when you try to introduce a new paradigm, and so some of it, most of what I've seen and it is really not obvious resistance, almost like passive resistance. All right, engineers, you can use Copilot, and well, I can code better than AI. I mean, I don't need Copilot, so, or you can use ChatGPT to help you out. I'm a good writer. I don't need that. So it was really, so it took a little bit of carrot and stick to get people to embrace it. There was a at Moody's, there was a very strong top-down push. We kind of called by the CEO, and we kind of had this whole thing about 14,000 innovators. We had a lot of programs to get people to do it. And then from a carrot perspective, we highlighted use cases. We created that are interesting. We created hackathons to get people involved, and then we had a little bit of a stick. How many people haven't actually, used use these tools that we're making available to them. And those people were encouraged to do that. So, so that was kind of a process, change management.
Yeah, no, that's great. Before we're about to go into questions from the audience, so start thinking what you want to ask. And before we do, I'm just going to ask one question to Kevin, just so that we're a little short on time. But Kevin, you're local here to Fort Lauderdale. You live here. You're also running for city commissioner. And so you're very invested in Fort Lauderdale in many layers. As an executive, running for city commissioner, you've been a part of our tech community. What do you see as the role of events like these in the development of the tech community, and how important are events like these for the tech community?
Yeah, so thank you. So obviously we're all invested in building and growing the Fort Lauderdale tech ecosystem. And you earlier mentioned, why would people be reticent to, move forward with AI? Maybe they were reticent to the cloud. Maybe they were reticent to the internet. And I think that's the right framing, which is, we are at the dawn of a 10-year cycle where we're going to totally re-envision kind of the application landscape. The enterprise software leaders that we have today will not look like the enterprise software leaders that we have in 10 years from now. So just like before the internet, did you ever think about companies like Salesforce or companies like Amazon? No, you did not. But at the end of the day, if you look forward 10 years, we're going to have the equivalent of the Amazon. We're going to have the equivalent of the Salesforce, names that we're going to know and trust and use every day that we wouldn't even be thinking about right now. So someone's going to invent the future. So I believe firmly, why doesn't it start here? We have wonderful founders, leaders. We have wonderful enterprise leaders here in Fort Lauderdale that can share their experience, share their knowledge. And events like this is how it happens, because inventing the future doesn't occur in a vacuum. It occurs when people connect with people share ideas, people lean on one another, people get encouragement when they're struggling. Networking matters. And we need to build that network here in South Florida, across Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. There's the power in the network. So events like this are critical.
Can I just...
Yes,
so,
of course.
Sharing my story, when I decided to move from Brazil to the U.S., I chose to move here, and nobody understood. Everybody was like, why are you not going to San Francisco? Why are you not going to New York? Or they gave me options, and I said, no, I want to be for Lauderdale because I personally, there are business reasons too, because it's we are positioned in a place where time zones, we can work with most time zones. It's better than anywhere, better than California for sure. Work-life balance. I'm a firm believer of work-life balance. I work a lot. I love to work, but I also like to go outside, go to the beach, and I think there's no better place to do that, to do personal stuff that I like to do outdoors here. And I don't want to get that look from people when I say, oh, I chose to have my startup in Fort Lauderdale, I chose to be here in Fort Lauderdale. So I think this is also important, because if we bring more people, this will be more and more common. We'll have better people to work with. We'll learn more. We'll do business together more. So I don't want to need to go to a place that I don't want to live, just for my business to work. So that's my personal take on that.
Okay, I'm gonna ask Zach to take a step up. If you have a question for our speakers here today, please raise your hand.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. My question is more about the fact that more than half of content on the internet and even closed sources is now either auto-generated or becoming AI-generated. how do you feel that will affect the quality of output as these agents and models start learning from other AI-generated content?
Start with that, Art? Well, there's first of all, I mean, I think it's a challenge in terms of us being able to decipher what has been generated by human or by AI, to the extent that we want to get original insights and not something derivative. But if the point that you're raising is that there's a question around how do you train the next models when the information that's getting generated is derivative, therefore does it actually add to the training capacity of the model? Is that the question? There's a lot of proprietary information that still hasn't been mined. This is kind of a lot of what we're doing at Moody's. There's a lot of proprietary data that we're training models. There's a whole kind of set of data and information that can be generated synthetically. There's a whole thread of data that has not been touched at all, which is kind of dark data, which is the data that is associated with how people interact, that gets generated through customer interactions. There's just something that we don't typically consider as data, but is data. And then there's a whole range of data that is actually data that's linked to steps in reasoning, and that is really a huge thread right now. And the way that OpenAI has built the latest model they built, they're actually training it on data associated with reasoning processes versus so we're just kind of shifting the scaling of data into different threads. We're going to find a lot more data.
Yeah, I just to add to that, I think private data from companies can kind of address that. So your company can look at your own data, and probably that won't be fake. But that's also a great opportunity for a startup, right? Because there are even examples like Amazon reviews. You have companies that identify fake reviews and are able to sift which ones are fake or not based on natural language again. So that's maybe an opportunity to build something.
Based on your customers, they probably have to have a very specific data set for you to provide value. So how do you start to think about starting from scratch? If you have unstructured versus structured data and you have a particular use case, are there models that are sufficient to start working with, or do you have to find a very particular model that matches your use case in order to find value and iterate from there?
Yeah, so if you already have a corpus of structured and unstructured data, one of the things that we recommend is getting started immediately with a RAG application. So what is a RAG application? It's retrieval augmented generation, okay? So basically you take all of your existing corpus of documents, structured, unstructured, and then basically generate embeddings, and you put it in a vector database. That's your context. That's your organizational knowledge. That's your private data, right? That no one else has. It's your product documentation. It's, your support information, so on and so forth. And then you can just take a commercial, off-the-shelf, open-source model like a Llama 3 to do the generation part. So that when people actually, query your platform, essentially what you're doing is you're hitting the RAG database, you're getting all the context for the user, and then you're just using the backing LLM to actually generate the response. But the response is generated is informed and unique to you, your products, your services. And I actually do think that the majority of enterprises' use cases is all going to be centered around just taking an existing open source LLM for purposes of generating the output, but the actual context of what is generated is actually informed by all of your private data. So would love to help you with that. Really, really simple. Again, this is part of the broken workflow that we just fixed, so we're really excited about it.
So this question is for all of you. Given Fort Lauderdale's impressive growth and Florida's strong focus on hospitality, how can business effectively integrate chatbots and human agents in customer service to enhance the guest experience? Additionally, there's two parts to this question. What strategies can employers implement to develop their workforce skills in light of increasing AI integration? I know that was a wordy question.
Okay, I'll probably need you to ask the second again after, but about the first, I think it's a little bit of what we said. So chatbots can be a pain, or they can be great, depending on how we implement them. So first thing, I would always give an alternative to go to an agent if the person wants, because the worst thing is you trying to talk to the agent and never getting to the person. But then for the chatbot, I think the most important thing is trying to map your journeys, trying to understand what are the possible questions that the customers will have. Again, if you have data, you can get that. And then like giving them what they're looking for, right? So if you're especially thinking of hospitality, when you're looking for a hotel, a travel experience, whatever, you want something tailored for you. And I might want something very different from what you want and from what they want. We're very different people. So how can I try to understand your profile, and I can suggest something to you based, again, on previous experience you had with me or previous experience we had with someone else. So the chatbot can really work as a concierge, as Kevin said.
I could take on, I think, with the second question, I don't know.
I think the second question would be really interesting for you to answer regarding the workforce capabilities that we need to develop.
Yeah, the skills of the future. I to me, that's one of the most important questions. And it's not like anyone has is going to have a brilliant. Yeah, I mean, my kids are asking me this, but to me, this kind of like we're moving into a period where things are going to change very fast. It is very difficult to actually predict right now what kind of things you're going to need to know, 5 whatever years from now. And so, in a way, the most important skills in my mind are going to be around adaptability, curiosity, kind of this, willingness to learn and kind of orientation around updating, constantly learning and improving. And there's nothing else that I can think of that's going to prepare you better than that. Keeping up with like your skills all the time. I don't know. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, first, we are the center of the hospitality industry, right? We're prime tourist destination. So let's actually have founders in this room reinvent the hospitality industry, right? Using AI. So a good example, I'll give you a personal experience. So Ari and I have a friend whose sister just moved here to Fort Lauderdale. Now, she had the benefit because she actually knew us. And what she wanted to know is how do I orient to Fort Lauderdale? How do I know places to go? How do I know where I want to live? And so luckily she had a contact. So then I actually picked her up in the car. I drove her all around Fort Lauderdale. I explained all of the neighborhoods, all of the buildings. And the whole time I was asking her questions. Well, what do you think about the beach? How often do you want to go to the beach? Do you ride a bike? How long do you have to ride a bike? And I was asking her all these questions until we finally winnowed down like the perfect plan for her for where to stay during the first 6 months, and then what she could go explore and do, and where we thought she'd ultimately wind up buying a house, right? So that's like a hospitality service, but I would argue I was just being an agent. And she was lucky that she had a contact so that I could be the agent. But what about everyone else moving here to Fort Lauderdale? What about every tourist coming here? Can't they have a personal agent that they can ask questions to and have a tailored program to get like the perfect experience for them? So I think there's an opportunity for us to take our knowledge and learning and understanding of the travel and hospitality industry, invent something new, and actually help people go to visit Fort Lauderdale, the website, ask a question like, what's my perfect Fort Lauderdale experience, and have it come back with the perfect itinerary. So let's invent the future here, I think.
How about FSD? Intro to Fort Lauderdale. Self-driving car, like Waymo, that's what I mean.
There you go.
So instead of Kevin being in the front seat, the car is showing you around.
Well, there you go. See, then I like that idea because this person was 30 minutes late, mind you. So I wound up being very constrained because I had to go canvass and knock on doors for the campaign. So I had to give an abbreviated tour of 45 minutes. But imagine if it was a self-driving car, and then the car is talking to you like Kit in Knight Rider, not to date myself, she could have spent 3 hours in the car going everywhere, right?
Let's talk to Elon.
Talk to Elon. Exactly.
And that wraps up another episode of the Founder Tactics podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please share this with a friend. We would love for you to share this with your network and help us expand our reach. And again, we hope that sometime you can swing by the Fort Lauderdale Tech Meetup. We would love to have you join us. It's a community for startups, investors, mentors, and tech leaders to just get to know each other and do great business and learn from industry experts during these panels. So you are always welcome to join us. And we'll see you in the next episode.